We Few Are Many by R.L. Rogers. Just the concept alone was enough to draw me in. An internet underneath the internet, the dark web, is how my old friend Kylie described it to me. It wouldn't be until she gave me a list of links that I would truly understand just why people referred to it as dark. Months before her passing, Kylie had gotten progressively darker in nature, empathy seemingly vanishing from her. She would later go on to tell me that it started with her dive into the dark web, and stumbling upon a site so dark and twisted that it could make even the most kind-hearted person into a demented parallel of their former selves. After almost a week of talking with her about the dark web, Kylie finally agreed to share her secret stash of links with me. She told me never to share even one of these links with anybody. This statement made me uneasy about what I was getting myself into, but curiosity was clawing at the edge of my brain, ready to jump out of my skull. I had to see things for myself. To do so, I would need to meet her the next day at the old library in the center of town. The next day, I was exhausted. I had stayed up into the early hours of the morning, scouring the internet for more information about the dark web. I found videos talking about underground drug trade sites and people claiming to have had first-hand experiences that scared them for life. Hearing of these kinds of things might turn away a normal person, but I wasn't one of them. It was almost 9 when I arrived at the library. Kylie and our good friend Justine were waiting for me, sitting on a bench just outside the front doors. Justine smiled, happy to see me, and got up to give me a hug. Kylie remained seated, but also seemed happy that I had arrived. We spent the morning hanging out, grabbing a bite to eat at our local coffee and bagel shop. From there, we made our way to what Kylie referred to as the Nest. This was a wooden fort that we had built years ago, located in the woods behind the local supermarket. Upon reaching the Nest, Justine and I noticed that Kylie had done some redecorating. What had always been a plain wooden fort was now completely covered by black tarps. She said that she had been spending nights out there and didn't want any homeless people to stumble across the place. Unusual, yes, but it was clear that Kylie was troubled. We didn't want to interfere with her way of coping with whatever it is she was going through. We all sat down in old chairs that I'd found in the dump a while back. Kylie reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She opened her notes app and asked if I was sure that I wanted the list. I said that I was, and she copied the list into a text. She told me not to open it until I was ready to begin my dive into the endless cavern that is the deep web. I agreed, and the text was sent. As if she had forgotten about something important, Kylie abruptly stood up and left. Justine and I asked her where she was heading, but she was sparse in her reply, saying that she had some business to take care of. Shrugging this off as another one of Kylie's quirks, Justine and I spent the next few hours just sitting and talking. She told me about how Kylie helped her find this app to meet people on, and how she now had a date with a guy the next town over. I was happy for her. She was a good girl, but never really had any luck with men. I asked her if she remembered our awful first kiss in the 2nd grade. She laughed and gave me a love tap on the shoulder. Since then, her and I had become good friends. When I got home in the early afternoon, my mum was asleep on the couch. She had worked another double. I grabbed the blanket off the love seat and draped it over her to keep her comfortable. I made my way into the kitchen to grab a snack and headed up to my room to begin my journey into the uncharted waters of the dark web. From videos I watched the night before, I learned that I had to download a special web browser. It was one of the few ways to access this part of the internet. As it installed, I opened up Kylie's text and quickly scrolled through the links. She had sent me a good 15 to pursue. After the installation, I opened it up and entered the first link on the list. It took a moment to load, but I was eventually greeted with a welcome page to an underground video share site. I spent a few moments scrolling through the videos, looking for a good one to watch. There was one title that caught my eye. It was a video from our local Dark Point Burgers. Quickly I clicked it and watched. Once loaded, I realized that I was watching security footage dated just 3 months ago. I saw my friend Katie, who worked overnight there. She was standing in the middle of the frame, slowly backing away from the counter. It was hard to make out exactly what was going on at first, but after a moment the footage became clear. She had rolled up her sleeves, seemingly freaked out at the appearance of her arms. I noticed movement underneath the back of her shirt, as if a gust of wind had swept through the eatery. Further into the video, she was reaching into the ice cream machine. The footage went fuzzy for a moment, then became clear again, showing Katie bolting out the door. She had gone missing a few months ago, and I wondered if this was the last time she was seen. The whole town thinks she killed her father because he was found dead at their home the same day she disappeared. Freaked out, I exited the browser and sat silently for a while. After gathering up the courage, I reopened the search engine and typed in the next link on the list. I was directed to a site that contained live feeds from what are known as Red Rooms. I clicked on the first stream and watched a hooded figure beat a woman strapped to a chair. I quickly left the site when the man looked directly into the camera and pulled out a knife. I did not want to see what happened next. Continuing through the links, I came across more and more disturbing sites. One of hacked baby monitors, a human trafficking site, and one containing a list of classified federal cases. The first one was titled Newell Family, a name I distinctly remembered hearing on the news before. I finally got to the last link. My monitor went pitch black. After a moment, a small flashing line appeared in the middle of the screen. Assuming something was wrong with the link, I attempted to exit the page, but the screen was locked in place. Words then began typing themselves out in front of my eyes. Hello, James. We are the silence. We are the solitude. We few are many. And soon, you might finally wake up. What? Who was doing this? How did they know my name? 2 buttons appeared on the screen under the text. The one on the left read Join. The one on the right read Exit. Officially freaked, I darted my cursor to the Exit button. I was met with a small pop-up message informing me that exiting was not allowed. Random images appeared, too fast for me to focus on any single one. When it stopped, I was shown a live feed of myself. My webcam had been turned on. In horror, I tried to turn off my computer, but to no avail. It remained on no matter what I did. A demented lullaby then played through my speakers. I sat there for a moment just listening to it, confused and anxious as to what was going on. At the end of the tune was a loud scream. Startled, I got up to run from the room. I heard what sounded like the front door of my house being kicked in. I screamed for my mom as I ran out. I heard her scream along with what sounded like a man telling her to shut up. When I finally reached the base of the stairs, she was being dragged out of the house. Another man stood, just staring at me, frozen at the bottom of the staircase. Who are you? What do you want? Where are you taking my mother? I shouted, dashing at the hooded man in front of me. I was met with his fist. I hit the floor hard and passed out. When I came to, I was in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. My hands were bound behind my back. I struggled, trying to get myself free, but couldn't. I looked around and found my mom, tied up just a short distance away. I shouted to her, desperately trying to wake her. She remained unconscious. My ears rang, as if someone had clapped their hands right next to my head. With tunnel vision, I tried to scream, but couldn't even feel my vocal cords vibrating to make a sound. When my vision returned, a creature whose appearance for the life of me I cannot remember was floating above the ground just a few feet in front of me. Though its appearance escapes me, I do recall it staring at me, its eyes a bright fiery orange. It held its hand to me, and I began to float too. My bonds became loose as I hovered towards the creature. It wrapped its hands around my face. The feeling was indescribable. Through its fingers I could see a light emanating from within, something leaving my mouth, being absorbed by the beast. When this glow faded, I blacked out. When I came to a second time, I was at home, in bed. Frantically, I hopped up and scanned the room. Kylie was sitting on the chair in front of my computer. My mother was knocked out, lying on the floor next to my bed. I was still terribly afraid, but also angry at Kylie for what I had gone through. I shouted at her, begging her to tell me what the hell was going on. She stood up slowly, walked towards my bedroom door, looked at me, and spoke with no emotion. "We few are many, and soon you might finally wake up. Congratulations, you survived the first trial."